So I got paid to attend a little girl's birthday party. That's dramatic of me. I was her nanny, and her parents asked if they paid me if I could come over and help with the birthday party. And so, of course, I said yes. I loved these little girls. I was living in California. I didn't really have any family around. Of course, what else would I do on a Saturday? So I went to Penelope's birthday party. Penelope went by Peppy. And I basically was the event planner of this birthday party. I knew the food that we had. I knew the games that we had. I knew how many kids we were going to have. And they basically let me run the thing. So I was running games with the kids. I was bringing out food. And I mean, the parents are awesome, but I was the executive planner of this birthday party. And I was in there with the kids. I was running around with them. And it was a lot of fun. It was a pajama unicorn party, so I wore pajamas. There were unicorns all around. It was a blast. And we got to the part of the party where we're opening gifts. And I write thank you notes. I was taught to write thank you notes. And so these girls were going to be writing thank you notes. Whether their mother wanted them to or not, they were going to, because I was there. So I was taking notes about every single gift that Peppy was getting and who it was from so that we could give thank you notes to these people. And so Peppy's opening gifts. And then she opens this one book and she's like, I already have this. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank you so much, Lauren, for bringing this. Peppy, guess what? Now you can keep one of these books on your bookshelf and one of them by your beds. You could read it for bedtime stories. And Peppy's like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Thank you so much, Lauren. And that was just a little gratitude spin. I don't know where I came from with that. I just started talking because she's so young. She wouldn't have known to do that. But as you get older, you know to just say thank you and you get a gift even if you don't like it. I think that's something we can do with gratitude is looking how to spin it, right? You're not always going to be ecstatic about the things that you're given. If you're given a book for the second time, but finding a way to be thankful for it and a way to make use for it is something you just have to learn to do. And that's what I taught Peppy at her 7th birthday party. And that night, she had a little boy to her birthday party, and they kind of had a little thing back and forth. And then later, their mom showed me there was camera footage. He would drop off a little love note on their home doorstep. He would come over with his dad, and they would write little notes back and forth. It was really sweet. That's not really part of the point. But I do think there's a way you can always find to be grateful when you're given something. But I may be wrong. My name's Caroline May Woodson, and you're listening to I May Be Wrong, But. And the quote we were talking about today is by Charles Dickens. It's from a classic, A Christmas Carol. And it goes like this. Reflect upon your present blessings, of which every man has many, not on your past misfortunes, of which all men have some. Okay, so A Christmas Carol. I'm sure you know it. I've been in it before. I played Belle, who breaks Scrooge's heart. I know, terrible. I also played young Caroline, who's like a woman with a baby walking around in one version of it. But anyway, A Christmas Carol is a story of Ebenezer Scrooge, who is a grumpy old man who right before Christmas is visited by 3 ghosts, the ghosts of past, present, and future. And it makes him consider the way in which he lives his life and how he wants to live it moving forward. Some fun facts about Charles Dickens. He was obsessed with stage performance. So before becoming a novelist, Dickens wanted to be an actor. He even prepared for an audition at Covent Garden. But the day he was supposed to perform, he got a terrible cold and he missed it. And so he later channeled that into theatrical readings of his own work, which I've heard, according to the tale, were wildly dramatic. And he would wear costumes, make big gestures, and just go crazy. And it's even said that some attendees fainted during his reading of Nancy's death from Oliver Twist. That's wild. Okay. Next up, he had a pet raven named Gripe, who inspired Edgar Allan Poe. So Dickens adored his raven, who was known for stealing food and biting guests. When Gripe died, Dickens had him stuffed and mounted. Oh, he's still on display at the Free Library of Philadelphia. Poe reviewed Dickens' novel Barnaby Rudge, where Grip appears, and later admitted the bird helped inspire his own, the raven. I don't know if I'd want to stuff a raven. I have to be honest with you, I don't really like stuffing animals or stuffed animals at my old age. But that would not be for me. Can you imagine pulling up to some guy's house for the first time? You've been dating, you've been talking for a few weeks, and then you pull up to his house to meet his friends or whatever, and then there's just a stuffed raven on the wall, and he's like, oh yeah, that's my old pet. It'd be done for me. Okay, number 3, he worked at a boot blacking factory as a child and never got over it. So at age 12, Dickens was forced to paste labels on shoe polish bottles when his father went to the debtor's prison. The humiliation and harshness of that time haunted him, and he never told his children about that until later in life. It's part of why he had this lifelong sympathy for the poor and why he wrote the way that he did. I will say, there is something to be said for your art When you experience something particularly trying like that, it can make your art better. Not that you should go out seeking problems. I'm not saying that at all. There's a point where pain and really hard traumatic things are debilitating. They stop you from doing anything, but there is a point that you can use that to propel you forward. Next up, Dickens was super into the supernatural. He was a member of the Ghost Club, one of the earliest paranormal investigation societies in London. He claimed to have these vivid, crazy dreams and believed in the moral potential of ghosts, which explains why, obviously, we have so many ghosts in Dickens' work. A few more for you. He walked like it was a sport. Him and my dad would get along. Dickens would walk up to 20 miles a night, oftentimes through the roughest parts of London, observing people and absorbing the city's atmosphere. He said it was how he thought out his stories and how he managed his restlessness and insomnia. Oh my gosh, Dickens, I didn't know you had insomnia too. Walking is good for you. It is the best cardio for fat loss, in case you didn't know. So maybe Dickens was onto something. Dickens also wrote secret coded notes to his mistress. So he had an affair with the actress Ellen Ternan. That kind of ruins it for me, I have to tell you. Once I know someone's a cheater, I don't really like them as much. But I'll keep telling you. Ellen was much younger than Dickens, and to keep things hidden, Dickens used coded language and private mail drops. And even his public readings were sometimes scheduled to be near her performances, something scholars only pieced together much later. That kind of sucks, man. Cheaters suck. Okay, next up, he had a superstition about his sleeping position. He believed that sleeping facing north improved his creative energy. I haven't heard that one before. Maybe I should try it. Whenever he traveled, he'd make sure his hotel room was repositioned to align his head that way. Next up, he was his own PR genius. He invented the modern book tour, reading his work live, signing autographs, and cultivating an audience experience long before authors commonly did that. So he basically invented branding. So marketing majors, you hear that? That was all thanks to Dickens. His final words were surprisingly ordinary. When he collapsed from a stroke, his last recorded words to his sister-in-law were "on the ground." So she had urged him to lie down on the couch, but he chose the floor instead, and that's where he died. Oh, sad, huh? Last one, he was the Victorian equivalent of a celebrity activist. So Dickens didn't just write about poverty like we talked about. He actively helped establish a home for fallen women, and that was run by Angela Burdett Coutts, where he personally interviewed applicants and helped rewrite their life stories to secure them a fresh start. Aw. That's so nice, Dickens. You get a few points there, even though you're a cheater. Some iconic lines that come from A Christmas Carol, bah humbug, of course. They're the most famous words that Dickens ever wrote. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. Wow, Scrooge. Grumpy, grumpy, grumpy. Jacob Marley said, I wear the chain I forged in life, saying that the choices that you make, you pay for them later. And then God Bless Us, Everyone is from A Christmas Carol. Tiny Tim's pure little tiny heart. Okay, there are a few more less known quotes that I'll share with you. The darkness was cheap and Scrooge liked it. That's good. That's a fire line. The darkness was cheap and Scrooge liked it. No space of regret can make amends for one life's opportunity misused. Oh, that's true. YOLO, as the kids might say, but I think Dickens put it a little bit better. He had become as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city ever knew. Lovely repetition there, Dickens. And yeah, that's A Christmas Carol. So let's talk about some other things, huh? Why don't we? First up, I want to talk about the TV show Beef. This is another one I'm surprised I haven't told you about yet. Beef is a really well-written TV show. The characters are really deep. The plot is different. It's basically about these two people who have beef. So it's not about beef as in the cow beef. It's about beef as in an argument. And it's these two people who typically would have never crossed lives. And there's basically this random day where they have some road rage with one another. And then it just spirals and they have all of this beef with each other. And it doesn't sound that deep, but it really is. Their lives get so intertangled. It is a little weird. There is some crazy content going on if you're not into that, but it is so well written. The actors are phenomenal. I have shown it to everybody I know. I think you ought to watch it. And you really don't know what's going to happen. I feel Like I started this TV show on Netflix today that I was just had on the background while I was eating, and I could tell you exactly what was going to happen. This couple's going to get divorced. They're all going to go on a trip together. I didn't know it was going to happen in Beef, so it's worth a watch. And so our quote that aligns is, I used to pray for the things I already had. I just didn't know how to appreciate them yet. I feel like that exactly aligns with A Christmas Carol. He has all these wonderful things, Scrooge, and yet he's still grumpy every ding-dong day of his life. Why are we grumpy every day? You already have so much. It can be easy to forget that. And it can be easy to forget that just as easily as I was born here in Virginia in America, I could have been born in some country where I didn't have running water or heat in my home. That could be my life. There are people who are living that life right now on our planet, and you're not. You're listening to this little thing on Spotify, maybe on your drive to work, or maybe in your earbuds as you work out, right? We are so lucky, and sometimes we forget about that. Some other quotes for you from Beef. It's crazy, right? How much time we waste being mad instead of just being. I feel like Scrooge needs to hear that one too. It is kind of weird. When I was at the beach with my family, so many people were sitting on their phones. Like, we're on a beach and you're sitting on your phone. Of course, I have my phone. Sometimes I listen to music. I didn't this time. I just read my book mostly. I talked to my parents. We walked on the shoreline. But it's crazy how much of your life we spend doing other things rather than just being present, right? If I take the metro to work, sometimes I do, if it's raining, nobody looks up to talk to me. Nobody acknowledges that I'm there. You don't just run into people because everyone's on their phone. They have their headphones in. They're not going to acknowledge you, right? Even when I'm grocery shopping, most of the time I do that, and I'll take it off maybe to talk to the cashier, but we're all in our own little worlds, but we could just be being and living together. And I don't know if you saw this summer, for some reason, Spain lost power. And so phone lines were down, electricity was down, and all of these people were just in the park together hanging out. They weren't working or anything like that. They couldn't get on their phones. They were just hanging out. And it does make you wonder how much of our lives we're missing just being around people, being here, you know? Okay, another one. They gave up everything for us. I was so busy being bitter, I forgot to say thank you. I thought that aligned with our gratitude of the month. You ever notice how peace feels so small when you finally get it? Like it should feel bigger? Oh, I do think that's true. Peace is such a little thing, and it's a hard thing to hold on to because so many things can disrupt your peace. It can be easy to take it for granted. I agree with that. Okay, a few more. I thought if I got more, I'd be happy, but maybe it was enough already. There are a lot of these that apply to Scrooge, huh? Next up, I read somewhere that the brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined pain, so maybe I'm just imagining my way out. That makes me think of the quote that's like, your brain can't make up a face, so everyone you see in your dreams you've actually met or seen in real life. Have you ever heard that? I wonder if that's true. Next up, you ever notice how rich people talk like their problems are character development? Oh, that's true. I do feel like when there's a problem you can get out of, it's easy to be like, oh, I conquered that. But when you're swimming deep in a problem, it's hard. I mean, that could be true. Rich people probably do that. I'm not around enough of them to know. But I also feel like it's easy when you're in a problem for it to feel overwhelming. And then once you've surpassed it, you've achieved whatever you need to achieve, it's easy to be like, oh, that was easier than it really was. When you're in the thick of it, it is difficult. Two more for you. Happiness is just a moment before you need more happiness. And then lastly, the universe keeps sending me signs that maybe it's just tired of watching me mess up. I do wonder about that sometimes. I do wonder if whoever you believe in, I believe in God, but I do wonder if the universe and God are just like, Caroline, why are you doing that? Caroline, would you stop? Caroline, we told you not to do that. I do wonder, but I also wonder if that's just the perfectionist in me trying to do everything perfectly all the time until I go crazy. Okay, that's all. That's Beef. You ought to watch. You ought to watch. Funny, good. Sometimes sad, but overall, great watch. Next up, On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. So On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous is written as a letter from a son to his illiterate mother, a woman who will never be able to read it. The narrator is known as Little Dog, and it reflects on his life as a child of a Vietnamese immigrants growing up in Hartford, Connecticut. Though through fragments of memory, he tries to make sense of family, trauma, love, and identity. So Ocean Vuong is the author here. And Ocean Vuong, if you don't know Ocean Vuong, is probably the modern poet you ought to get to know. If you're a writer, you ought to read this. Quite some beautiful stuff out there. Ocean Vuong's story is fantastic. I'm a big Ocean Vuong fan. The imagery that this man has is painfully good. You just read some stuff sometimes and then you're like, man, I wish I had thought of that. I wish I had written that. I wish I had come up with that joke. I wish I had drawn that picture. Everything Ocean Vuong writes, I'm like, man, I wish I had thought of that first. Just beautiful, beautiful imagery. But here's some fun facts about Ocean Vuong, even though it's not our main of today. I just thought you ought to know. Because this is a modern writer who's alive right now that you should get acquainted with. First, he was born in a rice farm shack in Vietnam. So he was born in 1988 on a rice farm near Saigon. His family immigrated to the U.S. when he was 2 years old after spending time in a refugee camp in the Philippines. His grandmother was illiterate and his mother could not read or write, which is why On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is written as a letter. She can't read. Is both literal and symbolic. Next up, he chose the name Ocean himself. Vuong wasn't given that name at birth. His mother once misheard the word ocean as Ocean and loved how it sounded. When he later learned English, he renamed himself Ocean as a tribute to her mispronunciation. And that's kind of beautiful. It's kind of poetic in itself. Ocean Vuong was also the first in his family to learn to read. So he taught himself English by sounding out the words on cereal boxes and library books. And it became a necessary means of survival, but it also became rebellion. But anyway, some quotes from On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. You once told me that the human eye is God's loneliest creation. How so much of the world passes through it, but nothing stays. You hear what I'm saying about this guy? He's good. Another one, I don't know if there's a word for the space between love and ruin, but I think that's where I live. Oh my goodness. And lastly, sometimes being offered tenderness feels like the very proof you've been ruined. Yeah. I gotta tell you, if you don't know Ocean Vuong, I'm gonna tell you, get on that one right now. That's your homework, okay? There's also lots of poems if you're into more short form stuff. That's how I first found out about Ocean Vuong. But that is a living writer. You ought to be reading. You ought to be reading, people. Okay, and my last external source for you is the song Dissect the Bird by John Craigie. This song came out in 2018. The only version I know is the live version. So if you're listening to one, make sure it's a live one with a crowd reaction and stuff. Truly, 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 you ought to listen to this one. I say that all the time, but please do listen to it. I'm going to read you the lyrics. It's comedic. It's meant to be performed in person for sure. And that's why I want you to listen to the live one. So think about this being performed in person live. It's comedic in tone, so be ready. But I think it is so what we're talking about today. I used to cry when I listened to this song, and we'll get into all that in a sec. I don't trust a musician who's always complaining. It's hard out here, but so is everything. You know what my job was before I did this? I used to walk around parking lots picking up trash. Do you know how many people paid to watch me do that? Zero. Always zero. My draw was zero for the trash pickup job. So even if no one comes to this one, they still let me play guitar. I don't trust a musician who's always complaining. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's the gorge, sometimes it's the garage. Get over yourself and do your job. Oh, this is the chorus. You're doing it wrong. Dissecting the bird, trying to find the song. It's a miracle you're here at all. And now this is the part that would make me cry. This is skipping a little bit. Just take a minute to realize all it took to make you. Your parents had to meet, as random as that was, and had to hang out long enough at least to make some love and make a baby and give it your name. And all your ancestors had to do the same, exponentially backwards to the start of life. So much had to happen just exactly right. Sparks had to catch, oceans had to freeze, billions of cells had to survive endless disease. Civilizations had to crumble, wars had to be fought, bad presidents had to get elected, good presidents had to get shot. People had to leave, hearts had to get broken, people had to die just so your eyes could open. The universe is not against you. The universe is not against you. It went through a lot just to give you a chance. It must have wanted you pretty bad. No pressure though. No pressure though. The universe went through a lot, but no pressure, bro. You don't gotta be perfect. You don't gotta be a saint. Just don't waste it. This was not a mistake. Can you hear me getting misty-eyed just saying that? I think this does a great job of talking about being grateful for everything that's come before you. And again, just being grateful. Of course, you have some terrible things going on, but it's not as bad as that time you were working picking up trash at a job. Like, you're here and you have so many things. You're playing guitar tonight, and even if one person shows up, that's one more person than showed up last week, right? There's so much to be grateful for. And I think the chorus, which just goes, you're doing it wrong, dissecting the bird, trying to find a song. It's exactly what we're talking about today. You're trying to look at this bird, you're picking it apart, cutting it open, dissecting it, and you're trying to find all the things to be grateful for. You're pulling apart this life. You're like, oh my gosh, you're killing it, looking inside, trying to find what's right in front of you. Right? I think it's so, so well done. This was on my playlist. I always make a playlist when I direct a show or I act in a show. And when I directed Smokefall, which we've already talked about, but when I directed Smokefall, this was on my playlist for that. And I love it. I still get sentimental. I have to listen to the song all the way through. It's not a song I can skip halfway through if I do hear it. But back to our quote of the day, reflect upon your present blessings, of which every man has many, not on your past misfortunes, of which all men have some. You know, there's that quote that's, comparison is the thief of all joy. That is true. When you look at your life compared to the same people who graduated at the same time as you, or the people who were born in the same year as you, it can be easy to compare and be like, wow, she's already married and is expecting a child. Her life must be so much better than mine. Or wow, she just passed the bar exam. She's going to be a lawyer. Her life is so much better than mine. Or wow, she just bought her first home. Her life is so much better than mine. It can be easy to think that. But why do you need to look at other people's lives to be happy about your own? I don't understand. Just because she has a home doesn't mean that I don't have an apartment that I've decorated and that I really like. Just because she's getting married doesn't mean that I would want to marry that guy. He seems nice for her and they're a great fit, but what? We wouldn't get along. There's a reason why all the things happen in the order in your life. And I'm telling myself this all the time. If you're one of my friends, you're like, Caroline, that's hypocritical. And I know I've been struggling with that, but I'm trying to preach the words y'all give me in my life to everybody else so they can hear it because I know they're true. It can be really, really easy to look around and look for what's wrong and poke your finger in things. It's harder to look around and be grateful all the time. That's not the norm. I will say people are probably going to think you're kind of crazy for doing that all the time, but there's so much to be grateful for and it's just around you. It's just already there. And of course, there are going to be more things that are going to come into your life. You're going to have such a good life. I promise. You're going to have the best life. But you have to learn how to love where it is right now, because that will help fuel you taking off for doing even better things. Because happiness breeds happiness. If you're feeling good about yourself right now, you're going to make other people feel good. You're going to be more confident to do more things. So just taking a moment to look around and focusing on everything that's right in front of you rather than wishing for all the things that you've had. I think it can make you a better person, more productive. It can give you a better future. But I may be wrong. My name is Caroline Mae Woodson, and you've been listening to I May Be Wrong. But thanks for hanging. I'll see you next week.